Hello everyone. So we'll be doing today chapter 4, which is understanding laws. You may be familiar with some laws such as those that specify the age of marriage, the age at which a person should vote, perhaps even the laws dealing with buying and selling of property. We know that the parliament is in charge of making laws. Do you do these laws apply to everyone? How do new laws come into being? Could there be laws that are unpopular or controversial? We should be. What should we as citizens do under such circumstances? So we're going to study about laws in detail and understand it better. Do laws apply to all? Read the following situation and answer the following questions that follow. A government official helps his son go into a hiding because his son has been given a 10-year jail sentence by a district court for a crime that he has committed. Do you think that the government official's actions were right? Should his son be exempt from the law just because his father is economic and politically powerful? No. Everybody is equal before the law because we have right to equality. That's our fundamental right. The above is a clear case of violation of law. As you've read in Unit 1, members of the Constituent Assembly were agreed that there should be no arbitrary exercise, matlab, leaving it to its own judgment, exercise of power in independent India. They therefore instituted several provisions in the constitutions that would establish the rule of law. The most important of these laws were that all persons in independent India are equal before the law. So this is very important that I just spoke about equality before the law. The laws cannot discriminate between persons on the basis of their caste, religion, gender. What the rule law means is that all laws apply equally to all the citizens of the country, and no one can be above the law. You, me, my parents, your neighbor, auntie, uncle, chacha, chachi, all are equal before the law, and nobody's above it. Neither a government official nor a wealthy person, not even the president of the country is above the law. Any crime or violation of law has a specific punishment as well as a process through which the guilt of a person has to be established. So it has to be, you cannot just punish somebody of your will, or somebody you can just don't blame because you don't like them. No, the person has to be go through a process through which the guilt of the person has to be established, whether he was responsible for that particular thing or not. uh, okay. But what but was it always like this? This law process making and finding that somebody was guilty or not, was it always like this? The question is no, it wasn't like always like this. In ancient India there was innumerable and often overlapping local laws. Now when we talk about ancient India, there were innumerable and often overlapping local laws. Overlapping matlab, for the same thing maybe two laws are there and they're very different, so that can be like overlap, but they're similar or a little bit, they can create confusion. So that's what it means. Different communities enjoy different degree of autonomy. So there are different degrees. I'll say that one law is applicable for Hindus, the other law is not applicable for Muslims. So that can be a different degree of autonomy in administrating these laws among their own. Okay. In some cases the punishment wait the uh punishment that two persons received for the same crime varied depending on their caste background, with lower caste being more harshly penalized. Sorry, this slowly began to change as the system of law began to further evolve during the colonial period. It is often believed that it was the British colonists who introduced the rule of law in India. Historians have disputed this claim on several grounds, two of which include: first, that colonial was always now, some people say it was the British, who introduced the rule of law, but then there's a claim that on several grounds that first it cannot be them because colonial law was arbitrary, and second that Indian nationalists played a prominent role in development of legal sphere in British India. One example of the arbitrariness that continued to exist and as part of the British law was the Sedition Act of 1850. So this act, Sedition Act is very popular. Um, in the sense of it is a very unpopular law. Okay, the idea of sedition was broadly understood within this act. Any person protesting or criticizing the British government could be arrested without due trial. So if I'm criticizing the British government, I can be taken to jail. Okay. And without any due trial. Okay. Matlab nobody can hear my I cannot even plea वगैरह. I'll be straight sent to the jail. I'll be arrested. Indian nationalists began protesting, criticizing this arbitrary use of authority by the British. They also began fighting for greater equality. They fought for the greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey to law as including the idea of justice. They wanted to include the idea of justice. By the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal profession also began emerging and demanded respect in colonial courts. They wanted respect. They demanded it, that even we want respect. Why can't we be treated equally as your British people? They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. Indian judges also began to play greater role in making decisions. Therefore, there were several ways in which Indians played a major role in the evolution of the rule of law, yeah, during the colonial period. The word arbitrary has been arbitrary arbitrary has been used early in this book, and you've read about what the mean it means in the glossary of chapter 1. The word sedition has been included in the glossary of this chapter. Read the glossary description and both answer the following question. State one reason why you do think the Sedition Act of 1815 was arbitrary. Okay, so evolution of the rule of law during the colonial period. So we have to see this thing, what is written. Another example of the British arbitrariness was the Rowlatt Act, can you see, which allowed the British government to imprison people without due trial. Indian nationalists, including Mahatma Gandhi, were vehement in their opposition to the Rowlatt Bill. Despite the large number of protests, the Rowlatt Act came into effect on 10th March 1919. Sorry. In Punjab, protests against this act continued quite actively, and on April 10, two leaders of the movement, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlaw. Okay, so these are very important. This in itself is very important. Okay, very important. Uh, were arrested to protest these arrest to protest these. Arrest. A public meeting was held in 13th April on Jallianwala Bagh in Amritsar. General Dyer entered the park with his troops. They closed only the only exit and without the only so there was only one exit and entry point, and without giving any warning, General Dyer ordered the troops to fire. Several hundreds of people died in the gunfire, and many more were wounded, including women and children. This painting shows the troops firing on the people during the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So, you see. So coincidentally, nowadays there's also this um, uh, in the news it's going on that the Jallianwala Bagh, as per the government, says that the all the this thing the Jallianwala Bagh area, it was all restored, because with time things fade out, they get damaged, and they said that the Jallianwala Bagh was closed in 2019 for restoring it, but the historians and they all claim that it is not this has not been restored, but rather it has been renovated, and it has changed the history outlook. This wasn't how, whatever you've made the changes, you've actually changed the history, and that's wrong, because the importance of history is to show the present people or present generation about the past, and not to just, if we change the history, then entire entire setup or entire saying that how one thing or the other was done, the course of it changes. So that's what we've done through the by renovating Jallianwala Bagh, which according to the government of India states that it is restored, but in the historians claim it differently. Okay, With the adoption of the Constitution, this document served as the foundation on which our representatives began making laws for the country. Every year, our representative passed several laws, no, several new laws as well to revise, new laws as well to revise existing ones. In your class sixth book, we've studied about the Hindu Succession Amendment Act of 2005. According to this new law, sons, daughters, and merchants can get the equal share of family property. Similarly, new laws have been enacted to control the pollution and provide employment. So, different laws are, created in the parliament. How do people come to think and propose that a new law is necessary? You will more read about. We'll read about more in the next section. How do new laws come about? The parliament has an important role in making laws. There are many ways through which it takes place, and it is often different groups in society that raise the need for a particular law. An important role of parliament is to be sensitive. We've talked about being sensitive to other people's, to the problem faced by the people and of other people's need. Let us uh, read the following story to understand how the issue of domestic violence was brought up to the attention of the parliament, and the process adopted to for this issue to become a law. So, how a new law is actually formed? Domestic violence refers to the injury or harm or treat to or threat of injury or harm caused by adult male, usually the husband, against his wife. Injury may be caused by physically beating of women or by emotionally abusing her. Abuse of the women can also include verbal, sexual, or economic abuse. The Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 extends the an understanding of the term domestic to include all women who live or have lived together in a shared household with a male member who is perpetrating the violence. Okay, so we have a story here. Okay, October 2006. Shazia, did you read today's newspaper? Isn't it a great day for women? Because it says, the daily newspaper says that the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005 has been passed. So what does Shazia say? No, not just women. Violence free homes will benefit every one. Kusum, it's taken such a long time to get this law passed. In fact, it began with establishing a need for a new law. Kusum and Shazia work for a women's organization. They remember the journey of how Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act got passed. April 91, a typical day at their office. I need advice. My husband beats me up. I haven't told anyone so far. I feel so ashamed. I cannot go on like this anymore, but I have nowhere to go. I am being ill-treated by my son and daughter-in-law. They verbally abuse me. I have no access to my bank accounts. They may even throw me out. I do not want to go to the police. I just want to stop this violence. Don't know what. I just don't want to be thrown out of the house I'm living in. Unfortunately, the existing laws is a criminal one and does not offer these options. So they're discussing that. They're saying that I want the domestic violence to be stopped, but I do not want to go to the police station. So the organization people are telling that unfortunately the existing laws treats domestic violence as criminal laws, and there is no other option than that. Throughout the 1990s, a need for new law was raised in different forums. Okay, we heard testimonies of several women. We've seen that women and want protection against being beaten, the right to continue living in a shared household, and often temporary relief. We need a new civil law to address this issue. In 1990, Lawyers Collective, a group of lawyers, law students, and activists, after nationwide consultations, took the lead in drafting the Domestic Violence Prevention and Protection Bill. The bill was widely circulated. The definition of domestic violence should include physical, economic, sexual, and verbal and emotional abuse. The law should cover any women living with a shared domestic space. They should be protected from being evicted from the shared house. What about some monetary relief? Meetings were held with different organizations, who were working with the protection of women. The women's movement want a new law on domestic violence. The government should introduce it in the parliament soon. Finally, the bill was introduced in parliament in 2002, but the bill has none of what we've been suggesting. We must oppose the bill in its present form. Let's have a press conference. We could also start an online petition. Okay, several women's organizations, National Commission for Women, made submissions to the Parliamentary Standing Committee. Esteemed members of the Parliament Standing Committee, the present law must be changed. We do not agree with the definition of domestic violence being proposed. The law needs to provide for temporary custody of children. In December 2002, the Standing Committee submitted its recommendation to the Rajya Sabha, and these were also tabled in the Lok Sabha. The committee's report accepted most of the demands of the women's group. Finally, a new bill was reintroduced in Parliament. After being passed in both the houses, it was sent to the President for his assent. The Protection of Women from Domestic Violence came into effect in 2006. At a press conference in October 2006, what is the new law? This law is a first in recognizing the women's right to a violence-free home and provides a comprehensive definition. It provides a comprehensive definition of domestic violence, and it talks about violence-free home. This is a civil law aimed at providing relief to billions of people, including wives, mothers, daughters, and sisters affected by violence in their homes. So it is a civil law, which is aimed at providing uh, relief to wives, mothers, daughters, and etc. In their house. So this law is very significant step because it recognizes the right of women to live in a shared household. Women can get protection order against any further violence. Women can get monetary relief to meet the expensive, including medical costs. Now begins a long journey. Yes, now the government has to ensure that this law is implemented and enforced. So, a lot of times laws are made, but it is all about whether, it is being implemented or not. Laws are made for protection for various things, but in the end, it matters that what is most important, that whether they are being implemented or not. So we are talking about what do you understand by domestic violence? List the two rights that the new law helped achieve for women who are survivors of violence. Can you list one process that was used to make more people aware about the need for the law? There were many public meetings and conferences done from the above story. What can you list two different ways in which people lobbied? There were organizations, like non-government organizations who were working the sector, students, and yeah, and all the other. In the following posters, what do you understand by the phrase equal relationships? Equal relationships are violence free. uh, we can end all violence against women. I think equal relationships are violence free. बराबरी के रिश्ते हिंसा से मुक्त. Okay. Often, women who face violence or are abused are seen as victims, but women struggle in different ways to survive these situations. Therefore, it is more accurate to refer them as survivors rather than victims. So, the term we use for people, for example, for even, for another example is yes, because they have survived through this. Of course they are victims, but surviving, using correct terms is more liberating. It is more giving empowerment. Whether if somebody doesn't have in hand is and is handicapped, it's not good to say them they are handicapped. The better term is they're differently abled. Okay, so correct term is very important. At the above example shows the role of citizens is crucial in helping Parliament frame different concerns that people might have into laws. From establishing the need for a new law to its being passed, at every stage of the process, the voice of the citizen is a crucial element. This voice can be heard through TV reports, newspapers, editorials, radio broadcasts, local meetings, all of which help in making the work that Parliament does more accessible and transparent to the people. These are all the various methods through which the voice can be heard. Unpopular and controversial laws. Let us now look at the situation where the Parliament passes laws that turn out to be very unpopular. Sometimes a law can be constitutionally valid and hence legal, but it can continue to be unpopular and unacceptable to people because they feel that the intention behind it is unfair and harmful. Sometimes we might feel that even if something is not it is even when sometimes it is within the law, we might still feel that it is going to be unfair and it is going to cause us harm. Hence people might criticize this law, hold public meetings, write about this, about in particular newspapers, report to TV news channels, etc. In a democracy like our, citizens can express the unwillingness to accept uh, ref, rep, re, sorry repressive laws framed by the parliament. When a large number of people began to feel that a strong law has been passed sorry that a wrong law has been passed, then there's a pressure on the parliament to change it. For example, various municipal laws on the use of space within municipal limits often make honking often make hawking and street vending illegal. So okay, no one will dispute the necessity for some rules to keep the public space open so that people can walk on the pavement easily. However, one cannot also deny the hawkers and vendors provide essential service cheaply and efficiently to the billions of people living in large cities. This is their means of livelihood. Hence, if a law favors one group and disregards the other, it will be controversial and lead to conflict. People who think that law is not fair can approach the court on this issue. The court has the power to modify or cancel laws if it finds that do not adhere to the constitution. Hawking or even begging is often in controversial, that recently a judgment was passed that the people who are begging, they cannot be asked to stop begging because it is their source of livelihood. They earn from it, they have the right to get income from it. you know it is they also have a freedom of that space matlab that area to beg in. There was such a big controversial, so you can google it up, or we can discuss in the next chapter. I will be more detailed about that, and we can discuss. As you read in the earlier section on the issue of rule, Indian nationalists protested and criticized arbitrary and repressive rules being forced by the British. History provides us with several examples of people and communities who have struggled to end unjust laws. In your class 7 book, we of course read about Rosa Parks, an African American woman who refused to give up a seat on a bus to a white man on December 1st, 1955. She was protesting the law on segregation that divided up all public spaces, including the streets, between the whites and the African Americans. Her refusal was a key event that marked the start of civil rights movement, which led to Civil Rights Act in the year 1964, which prohibit discrimination on the basis of race, religion, and national origin in the USA. So we've already discussed this example. Read the newspaper and watch news on TV for a week and find out if there are any unpopular laws that people in India around the world are currently protesting. It lists 3 forms of protest that you see above. Do you remember this photo essay on the women's movement in class Arrest Us Government Polytechnic Students? This the photo there showed different ways in which citizens can protest, campaign, and show solidarity. The following pictures points to other ways in which people protest unjust laws. There are different ways of protesting. So I think she's on a fast. She's from no, oh wait, she's Iron lady. She's from Northeast, and she's been protesting against the this Armed Forces Special Powers Act. Which have the right to arrest anybody without a warrant in Northeast, because in North East or in specific regions, so, for example, in Assam or Nagaland, there are regions where there's a lot of extremists. So the army has a rule to arrest anyone without warrant, and even if, and I think they and in such cases, there has also been misuse of power also. So I think she's Irom Sharm. Sorry, wait, I didn't know. I think she's Irom Sharmila. Okay, she's the Iron Lady. Then they are protesting against, and then here are also protesting. We need to remember that our role as citizens does not end with electing our representatives. Rather it is then that we began to use newspapers and the media to carefully change chart the work that is being done by our MPs and criticize their actions when we feel it is required. Thus, we should bear in mind that it is the mind is that it is the extent, involvement, and enthusiasm of the people that helps the parliament perform its representative functions properly. So here are some of the exercise. Write in your own words what do you understand by the term rule of the law. This means, of course, every territory has some rules, and you cannot you're not above and you cannot escape from the rule of the law. Whether you are rich, you belong to certain caste, everybody is equal before the law. State two reasons why historians refute the claim that British introduced a rule of law, because their rules itself, whether you talk about the Sedition Act, which was that nobody is allowed to criticize the government. Sedition Act of 1817, it said that nobody is allowed to criticize or protest against the British government. That was arbitrary, and it was the people of this thing Indian nationalists who protested uh, against the British, and they tried to enter the legal sphere. Reread the storyboard on how a new law domestic war got passed. Describe in your own words the different ways in which men's group worked to make this happen. You can again read it and then decide whether it was the public awareness, or campaign or press conferences, discussing with the and discussing and making a debate about the what is wrong in the particular law with, to the parliament standing committee. Write in your own words what do you understand by the following sentence on page 44 and 45. They also began fighting for greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey uh, to including the idea of this thing including the idea, so adopted from a idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey to as ideas of injustice. So here they are talking about, of course, the how British was made rules and we were just forced to obey them, whether it was even if it was arbitrary, it was just to their own judgment. Especially taking the example of Sedition Act of 1870. Criticize is to find a fault or disapprove of a person or thing. In this context, we mean to the government, functioning of the government. Evolution process of development. For a simple evolution means process of development from a simple to a complex form, and is often used to discuss the development of a species, plants and animals. In this context, chapter involves the way in which protesting movements against domestic violence developed from urgently felt need to a new law that enforced throughout the country. Sedition, this applies to anything that the government might consider stirring up resistance or rebellion against it. We've talked about the Sedition Act of 1870, which was passed by the government, British government in British India. In such cases, the government does not need absolute evidence in order to arrest persons under the Sedition Act of 1850. The British had a very broad interpretation of what constituted sedition, and what this meant was that they could arrest anyone, detain any, they could arrest and detain any person they felt was wrong. The national considered this arbitrary because they were a person for arrested for a variety of reasons that were seldom clarified beforehand, as well as because they were arrested were often kept in jail without a trial. So if you are being arrested is a different thing, but if you are arrested without being given trial, you just made to go and ask to sit in the jail and you're not allowed to come out, then that's not fair. Even you have the right to be heard, right? Repressive, to control severely in order to prevent free and natural development and expression. Repressive, you press somebody, you don't you control them. In this context, it refers to laws that are brutally control persons and often prevent them from exercising their fundamental rights, including the right to speech and assembly. For example, yes, freedom of speech is very um, crucial to express, which is often tried to be controlled by people who are in power. So we finish with this chapter, and yeah, we'll start with the new unit in our next class. Till then, take care, stay healthy, be positive, and bye.